Okay, I'm going to get started now. If anyone else wants to join, they can do, as I'm going through the presentation. So today we're going to be covering verbal reasoning. So a little bit about 6med. It was created by medical students, other medical students, 1,000 students in the past 6 years. We run these webinars that you guys are attending now, but we also do, we also offer UCAT and BMAT support and personal statement support, and then finally preparation for your interviews as well later on in the year. Do you think the six-month bundle is good? Very good question, Tala. I'm just going to get onto that in a second. Give me 2 seconds. Next slide. So we offer these bundles for personal statement, UCAT, BMAT, and interview. I personally think they're really good, especially many people struggling with UCAT. So the UCAT bundle, a crash course ebook and participation in a crash course as well. And then you get access to our online questions. So you can practice all UCAT related stuff. We have those bundles, interviews. At the moment, 6med have a 5% off any of the bundles that we're offering if you use this code 5OFF bundle July, and this is only this month. So if you really are considering getting one of the bundles, I'd recommend you guys getting it as soon as possible, because we have this offer at the moment, as I said before. And the one that most people at the moment are getting are the UCAT bundles. But if you want to get ahead and prepare things like BMAT or interview, we do bundles for that as well. So you can find all the information on that on the 6med website. A little bit about me. I'm a 4th year Bristol medical student. I just finished my intercalation at Imperial College London, and I'm quite passionate about teaching. So this is why I do these every Sunday, and have an interest in surgery as well. So some of you may know me from previous attended as well. So today we're going to be covering just what verbal reasoning actually is, people who don't really know much about the UCAT. And then I'm going to be giving general top tips about how to approach the UCAT. And then we're going to be doing practice questions with different passages under time. So I'll give you 30 seconds to answer each question, and then we'll go over the answer. And then this Q&A can be about UCAT and what we covered today, or it can be about just any general questions you have about medicine. So, for the session, can I just ask everyone to mute their mics? I think most people are muted already, but for those who are not, please mute your mics during this entire session to avoid any disruption. I try to make these sessions as interactive as possible, so please do participate. So type your answers in the chat whenever I ask a question, and also yourself anything that comes today or about medicine in the chat. I'll try and answer them as we go, or I can answer them at the end during our Q&A. Someone's saying you are buffering too much. Okay, give me 2 seconds. I don't know if everyone's experiencing that, or it might just be a few people, but let me try and make that a bit better. If I stop sharing for a second. Give me 2 seconds. Okay. Can't tell if my mic is off or not. It should say on the mute button, so should say on there whether you're muted or not. I think most people are muted, Since this is in webinar mode, I think your mic is off. Okay, perfect. How's the audio now, guys? Is it better? Okay, perfect. Let's carry on. So, as I said before, I tried to make these sessions as interactive as possible. Feel free to type your answers to any questions I ask in the chat box. So, first thing to type into the chat, on a scale of 1 to 4, how confident you guys feel about verbal reasoning. So 1, not confident at all, 2, somewhat confident, 3, confident but want to find out more, or 4, extremely confident. And if people can use the chat box rather than the Q&A, please. Okay, most people saying 2 or 3s. Okay, perfect. Good. Okay. So so the main things for this session are to understand the types of verbal reasoning questions you may get in the UCAT, and to also practice certain types of questions as an interactive group. So just a summary on what verbal reasoning is. You're evaluating written information given in passages. You get a total of 11 passages, and for each passage you get 4 questions, so 44 questions in total to be completed in 21 minutes. So that's approximately 28 to 30 seconds per question. So what are the type of questions you can get? So the first type is you can get a question which asks you if a statement is true, false, or can't tell. Those are relatively easy. The other type you can get is a single best answer question. So you get given 5 different statements and you have to choose which is the one that's most likely to be true or most likely to be false, for example. So main tips for approaching verbal reasoning: make sure you read the statement first. That's the first thing you should be doing. You do not read the passage, read the statement. And then identify the keywords in the statement, and then try and find those keywords within the text to answer the question. And then try and scan the passage and flag. And if you're really struggling with that question, flag it, skip, and come back to the question later on when you have time. So that was just a little bit of an overview of the UCAT. So if I could just get my timer up. So far with the overview, is everyone happy with verbal reasoning stuff? Will the PowerPoint be sent to us? I don't think the PowerPoint will be sent to you, but I think you should be getting a recording of the presentation that I've gone through today. So yeah. Everybody happy with the stuff I've covered so far in terms of verbal reasoning and things like that, how to approach it? Yes, no? Okay, good. So 30 seconds per question. And we're starting with this first question now. So this is your first set, and you've got 30 seconds to try and answer this question, starting from now. And once you've found the answer, if you can just wait until the end of the 30 seconds, or you can also, and then we can post the answers that everyone's got and then discuss. So 15 seconds left. And that's time. So has anyone found an answer for that? So if you have found an answer, put it down in the chat box. For those of you who have, if you have, so I'll wait for a few seconds for people to post it in the chat. If you haven't found an answer yet, don't worry, we'll go through them in a minute. Okay, so we've got 8 answers now, 9. Any more? Okay, so most people saying the answer as can't tell. I've got a few trues, mostly can't tells. Okay, let's have a look. So the first question is asking you, people can navigate the World Wide Web using all browser software. is this statement true, false, or you can't tell? So before we go on to answers, what did people pick out as keywords? Anyone? World Wide Web, okay. Browser. World Wide Web, browser, probably a good one. Navigate is a good one as well. World Wide Web is good is also because it's capitalized. That word tends to stand out in the text. It's easier to find. So people can navigate the World Wide Web using all browser software. So my main keywords would have been World Wide Web and browser software. So to try and find that on there, we've got World Wide Web there, but it doesn't say anything about software in the first sentence. Let me just get the laser pointer out. So nothing in there. Again, same, nothing really on there. Web services also use HTTP to allow software systems to communicate. So something about software near that area. And then I've got in this sentence, World Wide Web browser software such as Microsoft Internet Explorer, Firefox, etc., lets users navigate from one web page to another via hyperlinks embedded in the documents. So the question is asking me, people can navigate the World Wide Web using all browser software. So this statement does describe lots of different types of software. So let's have a look at the answer. Most people have said can't tell, some people have said true. So the answer is true because it's talking about almost all of the software we know of anyway. So people can navigate the World Wide Web using all browser software. The answer would be true. So for the two, I think it was a few people, I don't know if it was 2 or 3 of them, who put true as the answer. So that should be the right answer. All of these questions, by the way, just for reference for you guys, have been taken from the 6med UCAT Crash Course Handbook. So if you do want access to that, as I mentioned earlier, if you pay for the UCAT bundle, you will get the ebook as well, so you can do all of these questions on there. I thought it would be can't tell as it doesn't say all, just lists a few. I do understand what you mean, but I think in this case, because they do list quite a lot of them, it would still be true rather than can't tell. Okay, next question. So I'll give you guys 30 seconds again, starting from now. Five seconds left. That's time. So before we go on to any answers, what do you guys think are the main keywords? Okay, money, build a website, maybe could have been a good keyword. Okay. Okay, perfect. And then in terms of answers, we've got a bit of a mix. So we've got mostly true, but I'm also seeing a few falses and one can't tell. So let's have a look at the answer. So the answer is false. And so it says publishing a web page, blog, or building a website involves little initial cost. Many cost-free services are available as well. However, publishing and maintaining large professional websites is still difficult and expensive proposition. The question is saying some money is always required to build a website. Whenever they give you absolutes or qualifiers, so words like always or never, it's usually something that we can't, unless it's explicitly said in the text, we can't make that assumption. So because there are many cost-free services available as well, that means that you don't always need money to require a website. So in that case, the answer is of course. Does that make sense to everyone? Perfect. Okay. Next question. So 30 seconds again, guys, starting from now. Okay, 10 seconds left. And that's time. Okay. What are people saying? So most people have already put down the answers true. Okay. What, again, probably the keywords would be World Wide Web, HTTP. World Wide Web is often accessed via HTTP. And if we look in there, we can say HTTP is the main access protocol of the World Wide Web, but it is only one of the hundreds of communication protocols used on the internet. So what are most people saying? Most people are saying true. Okay, perfect. Let's have a look at the answer. So with this one, it's actually can't tell. So I'll try and explain why that's the case. So it's clear, it says HTTP is the main access protocol of the World Wide Web. So that part of the sentence would make you think the answer is true. But then if you read the rest of the sentence, it says it's only one of the hundreds of communication protocols used on the internet. So there could be other ones as well. So as a result, we can't really, it doesn't say, although it is the one which is the main access protocol, we don't know if it's the one that's often accessed. It could be through something else as well. So as a result, the answer for this would be can't tell rather than true. When I did this question myself before I put it on here, I found it a little bit confusing as well, because I would have put true, same as you guys, but it's the wording that makes it a can't tell answer rather than a true. Does that make sense? Yeah, so it is very tricky. That's why I put this question as one of the first ones, because it is one of the ones that really catches you out, and you really have to read the wording. Honestly, don't worry, it's only the first one, so we can, I've got loads of questions on for the rest of the session, so we can practice more and more and more and get better at it. So let's have a look at the next one. Someone's asked a question actually, Thomas, earlier on. I was going to answer it now. Do we always have to look at words like always and never? Yes. Actually, if you go in the, I might show you guys at the end of this session on the UCAT, the crash course ebook, which some of you might have access to if you've already bought the bundles. They have a verbal reasoning section, and it teaches you about qualifiers like always, never, these absolute words. And it teaches you how to differentiate whether the answer is true or can't tell, depending on whether they've got those qualifiers in the statements or anywhere in the passage. So I'll show you that in a second. Is Medify and UCAT Ninja the same thing? Oh, I don't know. Is somebody else able to answer that question? I'm not sure if they're the same thing. I think there might be two different websites. I don't know. They're both question banks, but I don't know if they're the same. Okay, next one. 30 seconds again, starting from now. Halfway there. And 5 seconds left. Okay, that's time. So what do people think are the main keywords? I would say probably World Wide Web, printed media, and books could be good ones. Don't know what you guys picked. So, okay, we've got some answers coming in. So most people say can't tell. One person saying true. Okay, perfect. Let's have a look. So the answer in this case is true. I think a few people said true, somewhere along there. Let's have a look. So More people use the World Wide Web in comparison to printed media and books. Now, compared to printed media, books, encyclopedias, the World Wide Web has enabled the decentralization of information on a large scale. So although the statement is saying that that we have the statement, this part of the passage is basically saying the World Wide Web has given us access to information on a large scale. But that doesn't necessarily mean that more people are using the World Wide Web in comparison to printed media and books. That's not what this statement is saying. So as a result, it would be can't tell rather than, true rather than can't tell. Oh, more people use the World Wide Web in comparison to printed media and books. Actually, I'd agree with most of you, and I'd say it is a can't tell, because we can't assume that the answer is true. So I think I disagree with the answer there. I would agree with you guys and say can't tell. But do you agree with my justification of why I think it's a can't tell as well? Is that what you guys thought as well? Yes, no? Yeah, exactly. Perfect. So in this case, the question we can say is wrong. Okay, moving on to the next one. So 30 seconds again. This is a different passage just for reference to people. For people, this is a different passage to the one before. 30 seconds starting from now. Ten seconds left. Okay, and that's time. What do we think the answer is? I know this one's a bit more difficult because you've got lots of different things to look for in the text, but what do you guys think the answer might be? It's asking you what would the writer would probably most agree with which one of the following, do you think? Okay, we've got most people saying C, which looks really promising, good. So C was males accounted for roughly 5,600 alcohol-related deaths in the UK in 2012. Okay, C is the correct answer, well done. And it's shown in your last paragraph. So it says, alcohol accounts for 6% of all hospital admissions in the UK. In 2012, roughly 8,000 alcohol-related deaths. Males accounted for approximately 70% of these in 2012. So we can assume that C is correct. So well done, everyone. Don't you have to assume, you know, this? Tala, I didn't really know what your question is. Can you rephrase it a bit? I don't know what you want to ask about it. When under time conditions, what would be advised if you're really not sure of the answer? Put the answer that you feel the most comfortable with, flag that question, move on to the next one and come back to it later if you have time. But always put down an answer, don't leave it blank. What does it mean by right? Using the information in the passage to the right, so that I think that's a typo. It should say the writer would probably most agree with which one of the following. You have to guesstimate the percentage of 8,000. How would you approach this type of question in the quickest way possible rather than set one? Yeah, very good point. It does take a little bit longer, these types of questions, which are called single best answer questions or SBA. The tips for this one is you still do need to look at each statement and look for the keywords in each statement. But one easy way to do it is all of the statements here have loads of numbers in them. So using your numbers as your keywords can help you locate exactly which part of the paragraph you need to be looking at. The other thing is, if I pick statement A, for example, I'd pick up the keywords as 400,000 and hospital admissions, and I try and look for those two words. And then as soon as I've realized that A isn't the right answer, move on to the next one. And then once I get to C and I think C is the right answer, you don't need to look at D. So if you had A as the right answer, for example, then you, as soon as you find the answer, move on to the next question, obviously. Don't try and look for B, C, and D to confirm that answer A is right, for example, because that will just waste time. Another thing is you just need to get really good at practicing keywords under timed conditions, and that just comes with practice. But these questions, the SBAs, are generally harder than the true, false, can't tell questions, because you do have lots of keywords. But you will only get quicker at it if you do more and more questions of this type. Should I do the booklet as well as UCAT Ninja? That's up to you. Depends on how many questions you've already done with the UCAT Ninja, and if you feel like you need different ones, that's up to you. Do you recommend starting from A to find 400,000, then move on to B and look for 200 and so on until I get the right answer? Yeah, you could do that. So some people like looking at it one by one. So looking at statement A, trying to find it, and then if they don't, eliminating that one and then moving on to the next one. Other people, what they do is they find out, they underline all the keywords in all 4 statements, and then they try and look for all of them within the text. I actually think that gets a bit more complicated and you can miss stuff. So I prefer doing it statement by statement. So looking at statement A and then eliminating that one and then going on to B and then moving on from there, because that way you're definitely sure that you haven't missed an answer. Okay. So 30 seconds starting from now. This again is a new passage just for your reference. 15 seconds left. Okay, last few seconds. And time. Okay, what are we thinking for answers? D, good. This looks really promising. Well done. I think from my memory, D is the right answer. Let's have a look. Yeah, so hearing impairment is the right answer. So anyone had any specific techniques for finding the answers really quickly in the text? Anyone? Yes, skim read. With this type of question compared to the previous slide, so the previous slide has lots and lots of words, like full-on statements. This one, we've just got a list of things. So all you need to do is find this keyword here, language delay, and then try and look for language delay in the text. I can see there's something about delays over here and delays in language there. So this is probably the part of the paragraph which I should be looking at. And then we can see delays can be due to more serious conditions like auditory processing disorders, autism, hearing impairment, one of the most common causes of language delay. So immediately I know that that is probably my answer. So you can actually just use the language delay as your main keyword and immediately look for that in the text rather than going through each of the options A, B, C, and D. So that's how I would have approached this one. Keywords, people are saying language delay, yes, that's a good one. Looking for words such as common within language delay. Are there other ways than skim reading? Skim reading is probably the fastest technique. I don't know if anybody else uses different techniques. That's the one I mainly use. Does anyone else in the group use any different techniques for verbal reasoning that you want to share with the rest of the group? Yeah, I think skim reading is probably the easiest one to use. Word spotting is the same thing, basically. Do you recommend actually understanding the passage or just solely looking for the keywords? Looking for keywords. If you try and spend 1 to 2 minutes trying to read the entire passage, you're not going to have enough time to answer all 44 questions in your exam, and you'll start to panic as well. So I would not recommend reading the passage at all. If you know information in that topic, can you kind of guess? So people have done that before. but they've got some questions wrong. The reason for that is because the whole point of verbal reasoning is they're trying to test to see if you're able to infer things from the text, not from your own knowledge. That's why with the UCAT, you don't really do sort of GCSE-based revision for any topics. It's more about doing the questions under time conditions. That's the main thing, because it's an aptitude test. You can't really revise for it. You have to do more practicing questions under time conditions. If you do make an educated guess, it might be right because of your prior knowledge, but the answer itself might not be right. It might actually be a can't tell rather than a true, because the question is specifically asking you it's the question is specifically asking you, does the text say this? And that's when you're answering whether it's true, false, or can't tell. It's not asking you about your own knowledge. So I think it would be a bit of a risk trying to make an educated guess. But one thing I would say is, if you're really struggling with that question and you can't find anything in the statement, then you can maybe try and make an educated guess. But even then, I'd say it's a bit of a risk. I'd say if you can't find it in the text, the rule is it's either the answer is can't tell, or you flag, skip, and come back to it. Usually that's the rule. But if you are really struggling, I just guess and come back. I'm finding it difficult to arrive at a trade-off between accuracy and speed. Would you recommend doing 30 questions in slightly more time but with higher accuracy, and for the rest guess, or simply do all the questions and hope for the best of them all? Xander, do you mean using this in your actual UCAT exam or for practice? Which one do you mean? Because my answer will probably slightly change depending on what you're considering. I would say if you're just starting to practice UCAT stuff, then probably don't do it under timed conditions. Just do the questions and see how many you get right. And then once you get more and more used to the verbal reasoning, definitely start doing it under timed conditions. Because this test is, if you don't have a time limit, probably all of you will be getting 700s, 800s. It's the timed limit that's making it really, really difficult. And that's the problem with the UCAT exam. In the actual UCAT, I'm finding the time restraints really challenging. Bit of a risk, I'd say, if you're going to take it with that approach, doing 30 questions and more time, but with higher accuracy. I can see why you would want to do that, but I would still, for the time being, keep practicing and see how you go in terms of how well you're progressing with verbal reasoning. Maybe an idea for you might be to practice verbal reasoning questions not under timed conditions, and doing it in your own time to try and understand how to get to true or how to get to the answer. And then do 10 of them like that. And then the next 10, do it under timed conditions. And then I think that's how you need to practice your UCAT right before. I don't know if I would recommend that for your actual UCAT. So yeah. When do you think I should start preparing under time conditions? My test is on September the 16th. So you've got about 7, 8 weeks, I think. Probably about 2 months, actually, you have. So I would say do a mock test before you start revising under timed conditions. You'll probably get a really bad score. I remember I did a mock test with no revision, having never done anything UCAT related. And the reason for that was because I wanted to get baseline result. And then I worked up from there and then used that as sort of a baseline to see how much I progress throughout until my UCAT test date. Do a mock test before you start, and then I would say start the first few weeks, maybe don't do anything under timed conditions, but then after about 3 weeks you should really be doing all of your questions under time conditions, because timing is the main thing with this test. Yeah, I'd say take a mock test as early as you can, because then that will act as a baseline. which you can work on from. And also it might not be the best score as a mock test, but it doesn't matter because you're going to improve from then on. Yeah, you still do. August 18th, you've still got a few weeks left. So I think just try and make sure you get as much practice as you need in, and that will vary from person to person and depends on which section you find the hardest. So I'll take some more questions a bit later because we've got quite a few more sets to cover. So let's move on to the next one. Okay, 30 seconds starting from now. Is everyone able to see the whole of that passage, or am I hiding it? I think maybe even now I might be able to see it better. Okay, that's time. What do we think for answers? Okay, Sarah's saying can't tell, then other people saying true. Okay. Okay, we've got a little bit of a split between can't tell and true. So let's have a look at the answer. So the answer is true, so agreeing with what most people have said. So the statement is saying carbon dioxide is a significant contributor to the surge in greenhouse gases. And then we've got to combat the surge in greenhouse gases, chiefly carbon dioxide. So chiefly, another word for that is mainly. So they're trying to put taxes on carbon emissions and the swift development of renewable energy sources. So that basically is another way of saying this statement on the right. So carbon dioxide is a significant contributor to the surge of greenhouse gases. So as a result, the answer is true, as most people have said, I think. Good. Next question. 30 seconds starting from now. Someone who's posted a question on the Q&A, I haven't forgotten about your question. I will answer it at the end, don't worry. 10 seconds left. Okay, last few seconds. And that's time. What are we saying for the answers? Okay, we've got loads of can't tells coming in. And the answer is can't tell. Well done. So there's not really much in this passage. As I said before, if you can't really find the right information within the passage, it's most likely a can't tell, and it's also can't tell if you're if the statement is trying to make you assume things as well, as I said before. Okay. Next question. 30 seconds again, starting from now. Okay, that's time. What do we think is the answer? Okay, we've got to do falses. Okay, a bit of a mix there. Let's have a look. So the answer for this one is can't tell. And oh, sorry, wrong one. So if we have a look at the statement, so the ocean is more likely to be able to contain more carbon dioxide than the natural gas deposits underground. So in this sentence here, it says the ocean contains at least 3 times more carbon than the atmosphere does. So adding the carbon dioxide from the burning of fossil fuels to the sea would have a proportionally smaller effect. So it's saying that the ocean does contain more carbon than the atmosphere does, but we can't assume that the ocean is more likely to be able to contain more carbon dioxide deposits than natural gas deposits underground, because there isn't really much information that's been said. So we do know natural gas deposits already contain huge quantities of carbon dioxide, but we don't know if the ocean contains more than the natural gas deposits underground. So as a result, we can't assume. So that would be a can't tell. Does everyone understand how I got my answer? Good. Okay. Next question. I think this is the final few, and then we should be done. So 30 seconds starting from now. Okay, and that's time. What do we think is the answer? True, most people say. Okay, last sentence. Yeah, that's where I would look as well. Good. So the answer is true. Well done. So as somebody said, I think Mustafa said, last sentence, that's where you got the information. For years, all companies are taking CO2 from underground deposits injected into deep-seated formations that help in flushing oil from dwindling reservoirs. Good. So before I go on to this slide, I think there are a few questions to answer system insight. At the testing site, even though a calculator is provided, are we allowed to bring our own? Oh, someone's already answered. No, so I do agree with Lily, you're not allowed to bring your own calculator. You're only allowed to use the one on the screen. Yeah, that's just to make it uniform for everyone and fair for everyone, I think. Okay, so those are all the questions. It was just this session was just to give you a little bit of a taste on verbal reasoning, how to answer them, and give you a few tips on how to answer different types of verbal reasoning questions. So main tips, as I said, read the sentence with your keywords, and then try and read the sentence above and below to try and understand the context of the sentence. So if you found the keyword oil and carbon dioxide, and if you found that last sentence, make sure you read that sentence that the keyword is in, but also read the sentence before it to try and get a little bit of context, and then answer the question based on what you understand from the text. So now, on a scale of 1 to 4, how confident you guys feel about verbal reasoning? Put it in the chat. That's really good to see. Okay. So again, this is just a reminder, if anybody is interested in buying any of the bundles, you do get 5% off this July if you use the code 5OFF bundle July. So feel free to do that. If you can just go onto the 6med website, and under resources, it should have all of these options available if you did want to buy it. So that was the end of the session. If you guys had any questions, post them in the Q&A or post them in the chat, and I'll start answering them. And on 3, I'll be on here on 3, so if you had any questions, feel free to answer them. Feel free to ask them. And if you don't have any other questions, feel free to go and enjoy the rest of your day as well. This slide was really helpful. Is there one on abstract reasoning? So yeah, Mustafa. So this is the first one. We're doing a little series every Sunday. So today I did verbal reasoning. Next week will be decision making, which I'm covering again. And then somebody else will be doing quantitative reasoning the following week. And then the Sunday after that will be abstract reasoning by Ella. And then the final week would be situational judgment, which I'm running as well. So every week we're doing one on each of the sections. So yeah, feel free to come every Sunday. And it will be a similar sort of setup. And then I think later on in the year, we should have another one on personal statement as well. And a few BMAT ones are coming up in August, September time. So you can join those as well. Could you explain the qualifiers thing again? Yeah, what I can actually do is I can show you, which might be a bit easier, might make things a bit easier. If I stop sharing for a second, and just getting the document up to show you guys. So, where is it? So what I mean by qualifiers are basically absolute words like all or none. Usually when they have words like that, it's already a hint that the answer might be a can't tell, because those types of statements are trying to trick you into putting down the wrong answer or making assumptions. So usually the answers for those questions are can't tell anyway. Let me try and find it. For some reason, I can't seem to find it anywhere. But basically, that's the gist of things, what I've just mentioned there. It's very, very long documents. I'm just trying to, there it is. Find the right thing. Okay. So if I share my screen. So these are sort of absolutes. If you buy the book, you'll get all of this information. So it says all or none are usually like absolutes. So these kind of things, if you get words like this, it's less likely to be a true or a false answer, and it's more likely to be a can't tell. But yeah, and make sure to always scrutinize the statement when they give you absolute words like this. That's basically what I was trying to say. If I go back to presentation. Okay. And let's do last question. What's the main difference between false and can't tell? Well, false is something which won't be true, and it's going against what the statement is saying. And a can't tell would be, you can't really say whether it's true, and you can't really say whether it's false because you can't make any assumptions. So that's what it would be. I started preparing a few days ago and struggling to find a way to revise. Do I just start doing questions untimed? How did you first start out your preparations? So as I said before, do a mock test, and then that will identify which one you're the weakest at without any practice to start with. And then I would say focus on each of the sections a little bit every day. And I would do maybe 10, 15 questions per section. But with the questions that you do get wrong, make sure you spend 20 minutes per question understanding why you got it wrong. Because there's no point doing about 50 questions per day and then getting loads of them wrong and not understanding why you got it wrong, because then you'll just keep making the same mistake over and over again. I think it's important to do fewer questions, but spend more time on them. So I always think it's better to do quality over quantity. So doing 70 questions, 80 questions per day is great, I guess, but at the same time, it doesn't teach you as much as doing fewer questions and spending more time on them and, you know, using that to your advantage, because that's how I think you improve over time. Best free revision websites for UCAT. I'm not too sure. I think if somebody else has any suggestions, feel free to put it on the chat. Should I do a mock test on the official UCAT website? Yeah, that would be a really good idea. Do a mock test on their website, and then they should go through the answers as well later after that, so you can have a look at how you've done. For YouTube videos, UCAT official free website. Yeah, thanks, Lulu. That's really helpful. Anyone else have any other questions? 10 more minutes. No problem, Mustafa. Thanks. Good luck for you, UCAT. If you guys don't have questions, feel free to go. No problem. What was your time stamp for VR when you did the exam? Achieve so many questions by what time? I didn't really do stuff like that. So what I sort of did was I just practiced it under time. I did about probably 15 questions in VR at any one time, and then I would do it so that I had 28 seconds or 25 seconds per question, and then I would go through the answers. So I didn't really have a way, I didn't revise so that I would do like 50 questions per day or anything. I sort of just focused more on my technique. So yeah. I think I understand what you mean. I think I'd say probably about, because it's 44 minutes, by the time, sorry, 44 questions in 21 minutes. And by the time you're halfway through, so at 22 questions, you should have just a little over than half the time left. The only reason I say that is so that in case you do, rush at the end or you're struggling with a few questions, the ones you flagged, you do have a bit of time to come back to it. That's all do it. No problem. Eight more minutes if anyone wants to ask their questions. Will you be doing more sessions every Sunday? So I'm doing next week's session. If I remember correctly, I'm doing next week's session, which will be on decision making. And I'm also going to be doing the situational judgment session, which is going to be in a few weeks' time. Ella is going to be doing the abstract reasoning section. I'm not sure who's doing the quantitative reasoning one at the moment. But yeah, I'll be doing next week's one as well. Would you say that flagging questions and leaving them till the end gives you greater time advantage? Yeah, so it depends. I wouldn't flag them unless you really, really don't know the answer. I don't think it gives you a greater time advantage or anything like that, but I do think it prevents you from wasting too much time, like staying on one question for so long that you don't have time for the other ones. So yeah. When you do flag questions, by the way, always put down an answer. Even if you're doing a complete guess, put down an answer, because sometimes what happens is you run out of time, so you don't have enough time to go back to the questions you flagged and to double check. So for that reason, I would say always put down an answer anyway, just to cover yourself. Anyone, any other questions? Last 5 minutes to ask any of your questions. How many questions do we need to do to get 700 plus? I don't think it's about how many questions you do. I think it's about how you revise. So that would, as I said before, you can do fewer questions and really try and understand how you've, where you've gone wrong, which will probably help you score higher than if you do, say, 70 questions per day. So I think it's more about quality than quantity. No problem. If you guys do get the UCAT bundles as well, and if you decide to attend one of the UCAT crash courses, I'll be teaching next week's one, so next Saturday's UCAT day course, and I'm also teaching one of them in September, I think. So if you you'll probably see me then. We'll see one of my other colleagues if you go to one of their sessions. So yeah, they're really useful days for you guys as well if you do decide to do it. Last few minutes. If not, you're free to go. Okay. I'll end the session there then if there's no other questions. So have a good rest of your day, and hopefully I'll see a lot of you in the next session as well. Right. Bye.